May 8, 1942. The Coral Sea, 350 miles northeast of Australia. Admiral Frank Jack Fletcher stands on the bridge of USS Yorktown as Japanese dive bombers scream toward his carrier at 240 miles per hour. He's already taken one torpedo hit. His fuel tanks are leaking. He's outnumbered 121 enemy aircraft to 93 of his own. The nearest American base is 1,400 miles away. Fletcher lights his pipe, doesn't move, doesn't issue retreat orders. Instead, he does something that makes absolutely no tactical sense. He orders his remaining fighters to attack the Japanese carriers, not defend his own ship. The odds are mathematical suicide. Carrier battles have a 73% casualty rate for the losing side. Fletcher has already lost the destroyer USS Sims and the oiler USS Neosho. His intelligence is 6 hours old. The Japanese have been winning every engagement for 5 months straight. They haven't lost a single battle since Pearl Harbor. Fletcher has 19,000 tons of aircraft carrier that's now a floating fuel bomb, and he's just ordered his only defense to leave. The Japanese Type 99 dive bombers have an 82% hit rate at this range. But Frank Jack Fletcher is about to do 3 things that are mathematically impossible. First, he's going to sink a Japanese fleet carrier, the first one America has ever destroyed. Second, he's going to stop the Japanese advance for the first time in the entire war. Third, he's going to do it while being blamed for cowardice by his own commanders. He can do this because he understands something no one else in the U.S. Navy has figured out yet. In carrier warfare, whoever attacks first usually dies second. Frank Jack Fletcher. Born November 29, 1885, in Marshalltown, Iowa. His uncle was also named Frank Fletcher, also an admiral, earned the Medal of Honor at Veracruz. Young Frank grew up watching his uncle plan operations for 3 days, then execute them in 3 minutes. That ratio stuck with him. But to understand how a man could stand still while bombs fell toward him, you need to know what made him different. Frank Jack Fletcher graduated from the Naval Academy in 1906, ranked 26th out of 116 midshipmen. Not brilliant, just competent, methodical, and absolutely impossible to rattle. His first posting was aboard the battleship USS Ohio, where senior officers noticed something unusual. When things went wrong during drills, Fletcher's voice never changed pitch. Not once, not ever. April 21st, 1914, Veracruz, Mexico. Fletcher is now a 28-year-old lieutenant serving under his uncle during the U.S. seizure of the Customs House. He leads a shore party of 53 sailors into a city of 40,000, most of whom are shooting at them. A bullet tears through the wall 6 inches from his head. Fletcher doesn't duck. He turns to his radio man and says, "Send. Position secure. Ready for next objective." His position isn't secure. There are snipers in 3 buildings. But Fletcher understands that panic travels faster than bullets, so he eliminates it from his communications. He holds the Customs House for 11 hours. He earns the Medal of Honor. At the ceremony, reporters ask if he was scared. He says, "I was too busy counting ammunition to notice." During a 1916 training exercise off Cape Hatteras, Fletcher's destroyer loses steering in a storm. Standard procedure is to drop anchor and radio for help. Fletcher instead calculates wind speed, current drift, and fuel consumption, then uses engine thrust alone to maintain position for 7 hours until the storm passes. His commanding officer asks why he didn't call for a tow. Fletcher says, "I had it under control." He did, barely. But the point is, he never considered not having it under control as an option. World War I comes and goes. Fletcher commands destroyers in the Atlantic, escorts convoys, never sees combat. This bothers him exactly 0%. He writes to his wife, A successful convoy is one where nothing happens. I am comfortable with nothing happening. This philosophy, that victory sometimes looks boring, will later save thousands of lives. But in a Navy that celebrates aggressive commanders, Fletcher's caution looks like weakness. His fitness reports use words like reliable and steady, never brilliant, never daring. In 1930, Fletcher attends the Naval War College and writes a thesis arguing that aircraft carriers shouldn't be protected by battleships. Battleships should be protected by carriers. His instructors give him an A- and tell him he's being too theoretical. Fletcher files the paper away and keeps his mouth shut. He knows something about being right too early. It looks exactly the same as being wrong. By December 1941, Fletcher is a 56-year-old rear admiral commanding a cruiser task force. When Pearl Harbor gets hit on December 7th, Fletcher happens to be at sea, 200 miles from Wake Island. Within 48 hours, he's ordered to take command of Task Force 14 and relieve Wake. He calculates fuel consumption and refueling schedules. His task force moves slower than anyone wants. Admiral King sends increasingly angry messages. Move faster. Fletcher responds, proceeding at maximum sustainable speed. Not maximum speed, maximum sustainable speed. On December 23rd, Wake Island falls before Fletcher arrives. The press calls him too cautious. Some officers whisper, "Coward." Fletcher reads the reports and files them away. January 1st, 1942. Fletcher takes command of Task Force 17, built around USS Yorktown. On February 1st, he launches a surprise raid on the Marshall Islands. The Japanese expect Americans to attack at dawn. Fletcher attacks at noon. His planes catch enemy aircraft refueling on the ground. He returns having accomplished the first American offensive action of the war. Admiral Nimitz sends a message. Well done. Fletcher responds, noted. March 10th, 1942. Fletcher takes Yorktown to raid the Japanese base at Lae in New Guinea. His intelligence is terrible. He doesn't know if there's one carrier there or 5. The safe move is reconnaissance. Fletcher instead launches a full strike without knowing what he's hitting. His planes sink 3 transports and down 18 Japanese aircraft. On the way back, his operations officer asks why he risked the carrier on partial intelligence. Fletcher says, "I had enough intelligence to know there was something there. That's all you ever have." By May 1942, Fletcher has commanded more carrier operations than any other American admiral. He's launched 3 raids, sunk 11 enemy ships, and never lost a carrier. But he's about to face something completely different. The Battle of the Coral Sea. This is how he survives what kills most men. May 4th, 1942, so 600 hours. Fletcher receives intelligence that Japanese forces are invading Tulagi in the Solomon Islands. He's 650 miles away with Yorktown. The cautious move is to wait for Lexington to join him, doubling his strength. Fletcher calculates that waiting 24 hours means the Japanese fortify Tulagi and his window closes. He orders Yorktown to steam at 27 knots toward the target, alone. This is the same admiral they called overcautious at Wake Island. But Fletcher has learned something. You can't be cautious about timing and aggressive about execution simultaneously. Fletcher launches 3 strikes against Tulagi, sinking a destroyer, 3 minesweepers, and 4 landing barges. The Japanese respond by sending their carrier strike force south, Shokaku and Zuikaku, 2 fleet carriers with 126 aircraft, plus the light carrier Shoho with 21 more. Fletcher has Yorktown with 75 aircraft and Lexington with 69. The math is nearly even, but the Japanese have been doing this for 5 months. Fletcher's pilots have been doing it for 5 days. May 7th, 08:15 hours. Fletcher receives a scout plane report, 2 carriers and 4 heavy cruisers. The coordinates put them 175 miles northwest. Fletcher orders a full strike. 93 aircraft, everything he's got. Then, at 08:45 hours, a correction comes in. The scout plane pilot made an error. Not two carriers, two cruisers. The Japanese carriers are somewhere else entirely. Fletcher has just launched his entire attack force at the wrong target. Most admirals would recall the strike. Fletcher does the math. His aircraft have 30 minutes of extra fuel. Recalling them wastes gas and loses initiative. He radios the strike leader. Proceed. Find targets of opportunity. At 10:35 hours, his aircraft find the light carrier Shoho. Fletcher's planes hit her with 13 bombs and 7 torpedoes in 6 minutes. The carrier rolls over and sinks. Lieutenant Commander Bob Dixon radios back, "Scratch one flat top." Fletcher's response, "Recover aircraft, prepare for counterattack." No celebration, because he knows what's coming. The Japanese now know exactly where Fletcher is. Admiral Takagi knows he has numerical advantage. At 16:15 hours, Takagi launches a 27-aircraft strike to destroy Fletcher in failing light. It's bold, maybe too bold. The sun is setting, and carrier landings at night have a 30% crash rate even without combat damage. Fletcher's radar picks up the incoming strike at 17:47 hours, range 30 miles. He launches 8 Wildcat fighters. The two groups pass each other in failing light. The Japanese pilots mistake Fletcher's fighters for their own returning aircraft and don't engage. Fletcher's fighters wheel around and attack from behind, shooting down 9 Japanese aircraft. The remaining 18 Japanese planes can't find Fletcher's carriers in darkness and scattered clouds. They jettison their weapons and try to return home. 3 Japanese pilots mistake Yorktown for their own carrier and try to land. Fletcher orders his anti-aircraft guns to hold fire. If they shoot, they reveal his position to the other 15 Japanese planes still searching. The 3 confused pilots realize their error and peel away. Fletcher's gunners still don't fire. He lets them go. His operations officer protests. "Sir, we had them." Fletcher says, "And now they'll lead the rest away from us." He's right. The remaining Japanese aircraft follow the 3 fleeing planes west, away from Fletcher. 11 more crash trying to land on their own carriers in darkness. Total Japanese losses, 20 aircraft. Fletcher's losses, 3 fighters. But tomorrow, both sides know where the other is. May 8th, ASU 8:38 hours. Dawn reconnaissance finds the Japanese carriers 120 miles northeast, launching their own strike. This is the nightmare. Both sides launch simultaneously. Whoever destroys the enemy carrier first wins, because the loser's aircraft will have nowhere to land. It's a race to commit murder. Fletcher launches 82 aircraft at 0900 hours. 15 minutes later, Japanese scouts spot his carriers. Admiral Takagi launches 69 aircraft. Both attack forces pass each other in the sky, heading toward each other's carriers. Fletcher's air group commander reports weather ahead, dense clouds and rain squalls between them and the Japanese carriers. Most commanders would order planes to go around it. Safer flying, better visibility. Fletcher calculates. The weather is also between the Japanese strike force and his carriers. He orders his planes to fly through the weather. They lose 6 minutes in tight formation, but they hide from Japanese scouts. Fletcher is trading formation cohesion for surprise, 0918 hours. Fletcher's radar picks up the Japanese strike inbound, range 68 miles. He has maybe 20 minutes. He orders both carriers to turn into the wind at full speed. This seems wrong. Turning into wind means turning toward the attack. But carriers need wind over the deck to launch and recover aircraft. Fletcher is preparing for his own aircraft's return before the attack even arrives. His operations officer says, "Sir, shouldn't we evade?" Fletcher says, "We are evading. Forward." 10:15 hours. Fletcher's strike force finds Shikaku. Zuikaku has disappeared into a rain squall. Fletcher's dive bombers have fuel for one attack run. No time to search for the second carrier. They hit Shokaku with 3 1,000-pound bombs, ripping open her flight deck. She's not sinking, but she can't launch or recover aircraft. She's out of the battle. Fletcher has traded 21 aircraft for one enemy carrier damaged. 1,118 hours. The Japanese strike force arrives. 33 dive bombers and 18 torpedo planes. Fletcher stands on Yorktown's bridge, watching the sky fill with aircraft. He counts them. 33 dive bombers means 18 torpedo planes are coming from a different angle. Torpedo planes always attack low, from the side. He can't see them yet, but he knows they're there. He orders Yorktown to turn hard to port, presenting the narrowest profile to where the torpedo attack must come from. His navigator protests. Turning left puts them closer to the dive bombers. Fletcher overrides him. The dive bombers are already committed. The torpedo planes still have options. 11 to 20 hours. The dive bombers roll in, 70-degree dives, 240 miles per hour. Yorktown's anti-aircraft guns fire 118 rounds in 90 seconds. Fletcher doesn't flinch, doesn't move, counting splashes. Most bombs miss, but one doesn't. An 800-pound bomb penetrates the flight deck and explodes deep inside. Fires erupt. Damage reports flood in. 66 men dead. Flight deck operations suspended. Fletcher asks one question. Engineering? The reply, no damage. Full speed available. Fletcher orders the ship to maintain course and speed. A carrier that looks damaged draws more attacks. A carrier that doesn't slow down looks like it wasn't hit badly. 11:27 hours. The torpedo planes appear, 18 Type 97s at 150 feet. Yorktown dodges all 8 torpedoes aimed at her. Lexington isn't as lucky. She takes 2 torpedoes on her port side, both below the waterline. The impacts are catastrophic. Lexington lists 7 degrees, but continues operations. Fletcher watches from 3 miles away. He can't help Lexington. He can only make sure her sacrifice isn't wasted. He orders his radar operators, count outbound aircraft. If he can track how many Japanese planes are leaving, he knows how many the Japanese have left. It's intelligence gathering in the middle of being attacked. 1,147 hours. The attack ends. Yorktown is burning, but operational. Lexington is listing, but still making 25 knots. Fletcher's strike force is returning. 61 aircraft inbound, fuel critical. He orders Yorktown to recover aircraft despite the fires on deck. Over the next 40 minutes, Yorktown recovers 39 aircraft. 5 crash in the water when they run out of fuel. Lexington recovers 22 aircraft. Then her captain reports, uncontrollable fires. Recommend prepare to abandon ship. 12:47 hours. Lexington's aviation fuel vapors ignite in a massive internal explosion. The blast kills 25 men and triggers fires that can't be extinguished. At 14:45 hours, Captain Sherman orders abandon ship. Fletcher watches as 2,735 men go over the side. Lexington is doomed, but Fletcher makes one final calculation. His intelligence officer reports Shokaku damaged and withdrawn. Zukaku lost 43 aircraft. The Japanese have maybe 30 operational aircraft left. Fletcher has 61. He's won the math. But Fletcher makes a decision that enrages his superiors. He withdraws. He orders Task Force 17 south, away from the combat zone. Admiral King expects him to pursue and finish off Shokaku. Fletcher refuses. His reasoning, Yorktown is damaged, his escorts are low on fuel, and he's 1,000 miles from base. If another Japanese carrier group is in the area, he'll lose Yorktown chasing Shokaku. He chooses preservation over glory. The immediate assessment is ambiguous. America lost Lexington, a fleet carrier. Japan lost Shoho, a light carrier. By tonnage, Japan won. But Fletcher achieved something more important. He stopped the Japanese invasion force heading for Port Moresby. The troop ships turn back. For the first time since Pearl Harbor, a Japanese offensive has been halted. Fletcher didn't win a decisive victory. He won something better. He proved the Japanese could be stopped. May 9th, 1942. Fletcher brings Yorktown into Pearl Harbor smoking and cratered. Navy assessors estimate 3 months for repairs. Admiral Nimitz gives them 3 days. Fletcher doesn't argue. He knows what's coming. Midway. Intelligence indicates a massive Japanese operation in early June. Nimitz needs every carrier. Fletcher supervises repairs personally, working 18-hour shifts. On May 30th, Yorktown departs Pearl Harbor still trailing cables, 87% operational. Fletcher considers that sufficient. Official assessment of Coral Sea is mixed. Admiral King writes, "Tactically inconclusive, strategically decisive." Some senior officers question Fletcher's withdrawal, but Nimitz understands what Fletcher did. He kept America's carriers alive. Nimitz writes privately, "Aggressive defense is still defense. Well done." Fletcher keeps the letter in his desk drawer, never shows it to anyone. June 4th, 1942, Midway. Fletcher commands all American carrier forces, Yorktown, Enterprise, and Hornet. The Japanese are coming with 4 fleet carriers and 248 aircraft. Fletcher has 3 carriers and 233 aircraft, but one is still damaged from Coral Sea. 0534 hours. A patrol plane radios, "Enemy carriers." Fletcher launches immediately, but holds back Yorktown's strike force. Enterprise and Hornet launch 117 aircraft. Fletcher keeps his 66 planes on deck. His staff is baffled. Fletcher's answer, "Because if there's a 5th carrier, I need to have something left." Intelligence says 4 Japanese carriers. Fletcher plans for 5. 0920 hours. American dive bombers catch 3 Japanese carriers with aircraft refueling on deck. In 5 minutes, all 3 are burning, but there is a 4th carrier, Hiryu. At 12:05 hours, Japanese bombers hit Yorktown. 3 bombs penetrate her flight deck. Fletcher transfers his flag to the cruiser Astoria because Yorktown's communications are destroyed. By 1340 hours, the crew has fires out and the ship moving at 18 knots. 1430 hours. 10 Japanese torpedo planes from Hiryu. 2 torpedoes hit Yorktown's port side. The carrier loses all power and lists 26 degrees. Fletcher watches from a mile away. He's lost his 2nd carrier in a month, but his scouts have found Hiryu. Fletcher orders Enterprise's reserve strike force to attack. At 1700 hours, they hit Hiryu with 4 bombs. She sinks the next morning. All 4 Japanese fleet carriers are destroyed. Japan loses 248 aircraft and 3,057 men. America loses Yorktown, 145 aircraft, and 307 men. The strategic balance shifts permanently. Historians call it the turning point of the war, but Fletcher is relieved of command 2 months later. The official reason is exhaustion. The unofficial reason is that Admiral King thinks Fletcher got lucky rather than skilled. Fletcher doesn't argue. He accepts shore duty without protest. Fletcher spends late 1942 commanding the 13th Naval District in Seattle, a backwater post. He never complains. In June 1943, he's given command of the North Pacific area and the Aleutian Islands campaign. He recaptures Attu and Kiska without losing a single ship. Nobody writes about it. By 1944, the Navy wants younger, more aggressive admirals. Fletcher is reassigned to the Naval War College. He teaches tactics. A student asks, "Admiral, what's the most important lesson from Coral Sea?" Fletcher says that survival is a victory condition. The student doesn't understand. Fletcher doesn't elaborate. After the war, Fletcher is promoted to full admiral in 1947 and retires in 1948. He moves to Bethesda, Maryland, grows tomatoes, and almost never talks about the war. In 1958, A journalist asks about Coral Sea. Fletcher says, "It was a long time ago. We did what we thought was right." The journalist presses, "But you stopped the Japanese for the first time." Fletcher says, "It meant something at the time. Now it's just history." April 25, 1973. Fletcher dies of a heart attack at the Naval Hospital in Bethesda. He's 87 years old. The obituaries are respectful but brief. He's buried at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 2, Site 4897A. His headstone reads, Admiral Frank Jack Fletcher, United States Navy, Medal of Honor, 1885, 1973. It doesn't mention Coral Sea. It doesn't mention Midway. Some things don't fit on headstones. The Navy names a destroyer after him, USS Fletcher, DDG 992, commissioned in 1980, decommissioned in 2004. After that, Fletcher's name disappears from the active fleet. Most Americans who know about Midway have never heard of Frank Jack Fletcher. They remember Spruance. They remember Nimitz. Fletcher, who kept the carriers alive long enough to get there, is forgotten. There are two ways to tell the story of the Battle of the Coral Sea. The first is as a tactical draw with strategic consequences. America lost more tonnage but stopped Japan's advance. The second is as a character study of a man who understood that in new warfare, caution wasn't weakness, it was intelligence. Both are true. Both are remarkable. But here's what matters. Fletcher made decisions that looked wrong to everyone watching and turned out right in ways nobody expected. The pattern appears throughout his life. At Veracruz, he didn't duck when everyone else did. At Wake Island, he moved slowly when everyone wanted speed. At Coral Sea, he withdrew when everyone expected pursuit. At Midway, he held back reserves when doctrine said, commit everything. Every decision violated expectations. Every decision was correct in hindsight. Fletcher discovered something the Navy didn't teach. Doing the unexpected creates opportunities that doing the expected never can. The Japanese prepared for aggressive American admirals because that's what America celebrated. They didn't prepare for a cautious American admiral who understood mathematics and patience. There's a moment during Coral Sea that never appears in official reports. When Lexington was sinking and Fletcher ordered the task force south instead of pursuing, his chief of staff said, "Sir, we could finish them." And Fletcher said, "We could, or they could finish us. I choose neither." It's not inspiring. It's not what goes on motivational posters, but it's the philosophy that kept American carriers alive through 1942 when they were the only offensive weapons America possessed. Survival as strategy, caution as aggression, patience as violence. The story of Frank Jack Fletcher is the story of being right in a way that makes everyone think you're wrong. The aggressive admirals got promoted faster, got more press, got remembered. Fletcher got results. He fought 3 carrier battles and never lost one through recklessness. He understood that in a war of attrition, the side that preserved its strength would eventually overwhelm the side that spent it recklessly. Japan had 6 fleet carriers and couldn't replace them. America had 7 and could build 20 more. Fletcher's job wasn't to win spectacularly, it was to not lose catastrophically. Some things you never stop being. The man who stands still when bombs fall because moving wastes time you need for thinking.